welcome to Awakening Within. I'm your host, Jill McPherson, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about the power of a positive mind. And I'm excited about the guests I'm having because they've done just that. They have used the power of their positive mind to create amazing experiences in their lives. And one of the first guests I have, his name is Jackson Lindsay. Welcome to the show, Jackson.
Thank you.
We're just going to give the audience a little bit of background on why I particularly asked you, what your story is, and then we'll get more into the power of the positive mind. So first of all, tell us what challenge you've had to deal with that has sort of made you use the power of the positive mind.
All right. So when I was 4, I was having some severe pain in my lower legs. And after some tests at the hospital and a MRI, I was diagnosed with a tumor in my spinal cord.
Okay.
So at the age of 4, this tumor was operated on, and a portion of it was taken out for a biopsy. Now, in this operation, I suffered from some nerve damage.
Okay.
So once I had gotten out of this nerve damage, I was semi-paralyzed from the waist down.
So before, sorry to interrupt, but before surgery, like you're a totally able-bodied 4-year-old?
Yeah, totally able-bodied,
Everything's
full
fine.
muscle control, everything's all right.
Right. And then after they take the tumor out, and now you've got some nerve damage?
Yes, yeah. So at that time, I was confined to a wheelchair. I had to use a catheter. So it was a very tough time, but over the course of a few years, I started to regain some muscle control within my legs.
And what did they think at the time, that you were ever going to walk again, or?
They weren't sure. They said I probably wouldn't walk unassisted again, and a lot of sports, such as skiing, would be out of the question, or biking.
Right, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay, so sorry, keep going then.
All right, yeah. So I had some regrowth, so I went from walker to cane, and then now I'm walking unassisted, still with a slight limp, but over the course of those years I had regained a lot of my nervous system.
Okay, so, and to the surprise then of the medical community?
I think I recovered a bit more than was thought that I would, because at that time, after the original operation, I had little to no control. So I was in a wheelchair. They couldn't tell how far I was going to progress. They had no way of knowing.
Right, right. And do you remember how you felt at the time? Like, I know you were only 4, but like, what a huge difference from being an able-bodied child to suddenly being in a wheelchair.
I don't remember the change as much since I was so young. It almost sort of seems like how I've always been.
Okay.
Like, I have vague memories of running, and it seems like it would have been great, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so at what age were you when you sort of finally became able-bodied, unassisted?
I was probably in grade 4 when I was fully, more or less unassisted. Though in grade 5 I did have to undergo a second operation.
Okay.
Just to re-diagnose the tumor. And with that I was in a walker again for a few years, for a few months.
Okay.
And after that I did recover again.
Okay.
So since then I've just been slowly walking unassisted and making progress.
Okay. So basically, tell us then, like, how has this affected your life? Like, what have you been able to do, not been able to do? You know, some of the challenges, right? Because a lot of people would say, you know, oh, poor Jackson. I mean, here you are, an able-bodied 4-year-old, everything's going great, and then suddenly life completely changes. And so what have you had challenges with being able to do?
Yeah, so one of the biggest challenges, not necessarily anymore, but then as just a young kid, recess, everyone were always out playing sports, soccer, foursquare, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So, and I always participated to a certain degree, and I knew the tough part, I guess, was knowing that you'd never be able to compete at the other kids' level, be as good as the other kids, no matter how hard you tried.
Right.
Right. So and it was still fun doing it, but you just kind of knew you'd never get there.
Right.
But nowadays it's not so much of a big deal because it's that type of physicalities don't exist. So if I'm doing physical work or activity, I'm progressing against myself, not against other people. So
you look at it that you just challenge yourself to get as far as you can, regardless of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and I think that's the trick, because you can still progress. It doesn't matter where you'll end up. It's just that you're working hard and you're getting better by yourself, right? So what you were doing a month before, you can change that a month later. You can do more, do better, always.
Right. So do you have a moment or a memory of like when you decided, I mean, really, you could have chosen much more of a victim card of like poor me, you know, my walking now is compromised or limited, my sports is limited.
Yeah.
But do you ever remember having a moment where you sort of had a conscious thought of like, I'm going to choose different than that?
Yeah, because I realized at a very young age, self-pity doesn't really get you anywhere.
Okay. Oh, I like that. Self-pity doesn't get you anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're all going to, everyone in life, you're going to have hardships. You're going to be tough times.
Right.
And there's a lot to learn from those tough times.
Right.
And you need to learn from that, and then you need to just keep going. So you don't need to keep those negatives bearing down on you once you've learned from them. Right.
Okay, so you take a challenging situation and you learn from it.
Exactly, yeah. And there's lots to learn from every type of challenging situation.
Right.
Right, so for me, I just learned that I needed to push my limits to a point that you need to find your limitations and never be scared to find them. So always work as hard as you can, do as much as you can to figure out exactly what you can't do. And once you've realized what you can't do, still work at it, because there's still hope for change in the future.
Right. And you're able-bodied now is an example of that, where someone might have suggested you could only get so far, but you've surpassed that already.
Exactly. And there's still a ways to go, but that's just how it is, right? So we still keep on going.
Right. So, like, how did you get so positive about this? Like, what would you give credit to?
I would give credit a lot to my family. I'm very close with my parents and my grandparents and various family members, so they were all very supportive. And I think the biggest asset is that they didn't put limitations on me. I always had the ability to go out and do things, even though it might not have been the safest or the smartest thing to do. I was still allowed to go out and experience it.
And try.
And try, exactly. I wasn't kept in a bubble.
Right.
Right. So just that freedom to it in that certain sense just let me progress.
Right. So with some physical limitations, give us an example of something that maybe you were encouraged or allowed to do that some more cautious parents might have pulled back on.
It's as simple as going out biking. Like my balance, especially when I started biking, was not very good. Like I fell and I crashed a lot, which bicycle injuries can always be dangerous. And and I was little, and it's just as simple as that. Or jumping off diving boards, or doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where there's the possibility of failure or injury, but you have to do it just to do it. You have to live your life.
So your family really sort of planted that seed of possibility.
Definitely.
Of like, just try, just go and see, how you do. Right. And never any feeling of, oh, you messed up. Like if you do fall off the bike, then what's the perception on that?
I think it's with everything, but especially this, you're going to fail, and there's going to be moments where you realize you can't do that yet, or you need to work at it to do it.
Right.
So you have to embrace that failure, right? Because you have to expect it, because it will happen. You're going to fail.
So embrace failure. So define that for me. Like, what is that for you?
So when I do stuff, I know I'm not afraid to fail.
Okay.
I know there's a chance.
Okay.
But I know that if I do, I will be able to get back up, and I'll be able to conquer it again. Like I know nothing's permanent. Like I can still keep going from failure. Right. So you can still overcome it.
Nothing's permanent. That's great. Yeah. I mean, change is inevitable, isn't it? Right. Yeah. And so you just ride on that belief of, okay, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So one of the purposes of the show is that I hope that the viewers that are watching, they get some sort of inspiration and ideas. And so, like, what would you say? Like, let's, for instance, there's somebody watching, particularly a young person like yourself or even younger, and maybe they are kind of getting the story of, oh, be careful, you can't do that, you can't do that.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to them?
I would suggest try as hard as you can. Like, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Like within common sense, but never give up, keep on trying, and if it doesn't work out one time, that doesn't mean it won't work out the second time or the third time or the 100th time.
Right.
Right, so you gotta keep on trying, and you can't stop. As soon as you stop and remain stationary, there'll be no progress.
Okay.
So you have to just keep going.
Keep going.
It might be tough, but you have to.
And do you do any like little tactics or things that help you with any sort of like self-talk or visualizations, or like is there any sort of little tricks you have up your sleeve when you do have sort of the moment of failure or falling off the bike, so to speak?
I try my best to look to the future.
Okay.
So be it marks or physical or whatever, if something bad happens and you don't reach what you wanted, the goal you wanted, you have to say, all right, what do I need to change? You gotta learn from your mistake, and then figure out what you need to change in the future, and then when you attempt it again, implement those changes that you had thought, and see how that goes and work for it.
Right. Okay. So, like, if we could rewind the clock and take you back to your childhood again and do it differently, where, you know, a more fearful or negative story was offered to you, do you feel that you would be living the life you're living now? Would it be the same, or do you think that your thoughts really have affected every aspect of your life?
Yes, I think so. I think if I had have been in a different situation where I didn't have the ability to do all those things and live my life, it would have been a very much more negative life, very negative thinking.
Right.
I wouldn't have been as positive or as open-minded to a lot of activities or, just aspects.
Right. So one of your challenges, you spoke of the childhood, was like recess time, everybody's kind of, you know, ahead of you and doing better physically with running and that kind of thing. So bring me now to today. You're going to university now.
Yeah, just finished first year university.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
What are the challenges now today? Like if I saw you, you know, walking down the street on campus or something, like what might be some of the things that Jackson has to deal with today?
The challenges aren't very apparent anymore. Like the only challenge I have today is I walk with a limp.
Okay.
And then say we're running, I won't be able to run as fast or as normal. But it's very minor, and I don't, at this point it doesn't bother me anymore. Like I accept that. That's just how it is, how it's going to be. Like people will stare, and that's fine. People are curious, and I have no problem talking about it or talking with friends or new people that I meet. It's just part of me. It's who I am now.
Right.
So the challenges have definitely faded away. Like I still know I won't be able to be competitive in sports, but that level of competition in sports is definitely past.
Right.
Whereas there's tons of new activities and hobbies that I can get into,
Right.
and still doing those physical activities. But once again, just challenging yourself.
So with the struggle in walking, like at the end of the day, do you have any pain or struggles with mobility?
No, sometimes if I'm doing a large amount of walking, I will feel fatigue very quickly and get tired and maybe trip and fall a little bit more, but usually I can do a long day's worth of walking without major injury or fatigue.
Okay, all right. So with about 1 minute to go, and then we're going to go to break, can you offer the audience like sort of your number one, you know, tip if somebody is watching and they are dealing with some sort of like physical, you know, injury or limitation, what we could leave them with on sort of your words of wisdom?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say push your limitations always. Don't be afraid to fail. Keep on going. Never give up, and everything can change.
Right. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. Exactly.
Right. Okay. That's great. Okay. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. When we go to break, we're going to have another guest join us, and we're going to ask Jackson to stay with us and be part of a further discussion on somebody else who is also dealing with some physical struggles and has a mind perception that I'm really looking forward to her sharing on how she deals with it. Today's show, we're talking about the power of the positive mind and how positive thinking affects our lives can be quite a drastic way. I have two guests with me. The first part of the show, if you're just tuning in now, we were talking to Jackson Lindsay about how he's used it to overcome some physical challenges with losing sensation in his body and having some physical disability. And now I have another guest on with me today. Sarah Gillis has joined us. And Sarah has a prosthetic leg, as we can see, this nice, beautiful, colorful leg here. And let's just start by finding out why it is that you have a prosthetic leg.
Sure. I was born with fibular hemimelia, which is a condition where I was just missing some bones in my right lower leg. So I had it amputated when I was around 6 months old.
So you had what, part of your leg amputated?
My right lower leg.
Okay.
Just around the ankle.
Okay.
It was amputated so I could be able to walk.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they fit you with a prosthetic?
They fit me with a prosthetic when I was 9 months old.
Okay. So obviously you only remember ever having a prosthetic leg. You have no memory of anything else, right? Okay. So tell us, what's the challenges of having a prosthetic leg? Particularly, you know, when you're a child, you know, what are some of the memories you had of like having the challenge of having?
Well, obviously I have no movement to my ankle, so it limits me from doing some sports. And also, when I was younger, I used to be very bothered by people staring at me.
Okay.
So that was one of the challenges I faced, was I always felt different, and everyone staring at me kept reminding me that I had a prosthetic leg and that I'd never be able to do the things that other people can.
Right. So that's what you thought when you were little. You were kind of
Yes.
worried about what people thought
Yeah.
and worried about your limitations. But now what? So like take us to today. Like how do you feel about it now?
Well, as I got older, I realized that my prosthetic leg is just a part of me. So the only reason people are staring is because they're just curious and they've never seen anything like that. So I've realized that they're going to be staring at me for my whole life.
Right.
So if I always get caught up and embarrassed and upset because people are staring at me, then that would just make my whole life upset because they're going to be staring at me for my entire life.
Right. So you changed your perception on
Yeah.
the staring, of like looking at it a different way. Right. Okay. And what about some of the challenges of being some people might think that there's some limitations on what you can and can't do, but has it limited you in things, or are you able to do?
I always try to do everything that I can, and I always try new things. The only limitation in life is what you make limits in your own mind.
Okay, that's
So
a good one.
by not having limits in my mind of what I can and can't do, it's left me open to trying new things.
Okay,
But
so like
for-
sky's
yeah.
the limit.
Yeah.
Right, rather than you deciding this is what I can and can't do. You're
Yeah.
just open to trying. Okay. And so give us example of some things that you're trying that maybe some people with an artificial leg might not think is possible.
Well, I do lots of sports like ski racing and horseback riding, running, swimming, all those things, and I wouldn't have been able to done it if I didn't have the same feeling that I do.
Right. That you can do
Yeah.
anything. Right. And did that just come out of anywhere? I mean, before, when we were talking to Jackson, he gave a lot of credit to, family situation. And how would you describe your family as far as supporting you with having that?
My family has been very supportive because, when I was almost 2, they got me into skiing, so there was no choice in whether I was going to do it or not. And they've got me into a lot of other family sports, so they've given me a little encouragement in doing those sports.
Just a tad, huh? Yeah.
And that's helped me keep an open mind about doing those things and realize that there's no limit.
Right. So at 2, you're on skis.
Yeah.
There's lots of able-bodied children that are never on skis at
Yeah.
all, or maybe
Yeah.
not till like much later in life.
Yeah.
So you just got right into it.
Yeah.
Good. And it worked because you love skiing, I understand.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about now your skiing career, shall we say?
Well, like I said, I started skiing really little, and I was always with a prosthetic leg, so it's never been different.
Right.
And so now I'm a ski racer on the Ontario para team, and I'm the Ontario female champion, para champion in Ontario.
Wow.
And I've gone to many different para races, and I also race on an able-bodied team, so with other able-bodied kids, and they treat me perfectly normal, like I was never disabled.
Right. So you do both.
Yes.
You participate in both.
Yeah.
Now you brought some pictures in. So we're just going to get some of the pictures to come up here, and we'll just speak to them as they come up of you skiing. So here we've got you with a group of people. Tell us about who you're with in that photo.
So at the 2015 Canada Winter Games, I competed this year, and there's only 8 female para athletes competing, and so this is all 8 of us with the Canada Winter Games mascot.
Okay.
And it was really cool meeting all those girls because we're all kind of similar. We're always open to trying new things despite of having a disability. So it was really neat seeing those people and racing with them. It was
Good. And so is this a picture of you? We've got coming down the hill. That's you racing down.
Yeah.
So racing, and you have no hesitation with racing down that hill.
No.
The leg must support you well then.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. And here you've got some sort of medal, or tell us what the medal is you're holding there.
So I won a bronze medal in the women's para alpine ski racing in both slalom and GS. So
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. And so we've got some medals here. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about these that you've brought in.
So this is the medal from the 2015 Canada Winter Games.
So
that I was
just
at.
recent.
Yeah, so this is the medal that was in the picture,
Okay.
and I won this in a slalom and a GS.
And so, and where was this race?
It was in Prince George, British Columbia.
Oh, so you're traveling now with all
Yes.
this. Wow, good,
Yeah.
good. And a
And
few
then
others here.
I've been to 2 provincial races, and they're just races in Ontario. The Canada Winter Games is all of Canada. This is just in Ontario. This is from 2011, and this would be from 2014.
Okay.
So I've got 2 provincial medals
Wow.
as well.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow. And you feel proud.
Yeah.
You must. That's good. So obviously, you never thought about, well, I can't do this because I have an artificial leg.
No.
You were trying. Tell me though what it's about. Like, we saw the picture of you with other people who are participating that have some physical challenges as well. What's it taught you just being with those people? I mean, it's because it's not just you have in their experience, you're just have a half an artificial leg, really. What are they dealing with?
Well, some of them have bigger disabilities, like an above-the-knee amputee, and some of them were in sit skis, so they're paralyzed. And there's a lot of other disabilities out there that are much bigger than my disability. And just being around them has taught me that I might not have the biggest disability, so there's no reason that I shouldn't be trying new things. And they're always also positive, and like I said before, they don't question doing anything because of their disability, so why should I? So it's really, they've helped teach me to, make sky the limit.
Right. So you've had positive family influence, and now you're telling me that the peer influence, or the people that you are, hanging out with, also has an effect on you as well.
Yes.
Would you say that too, Jackson? Like having a peer group that's positive?
I went to a camp for a few years as a young kid throughout grade school, and I met a lot of people with various different disabilities, had gone through cancer treatment, and you really get the sense that you're not alone, and that there's others around that are facing the exact same problems that you are, and we all have to work together.
Right. So that's huge too. So if you're, because if you could choose the friends who are, poor Sarah, blah, 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 that sort of negative, but you're also surrounded by people who think the sky's the limit.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's great. So we saw some pictures of you skiing. So you're a downhill skier, you're a racer in particular. I mean, that's even more impressive for me that you can race. And then also you brought in a photo with you cross-country running.
Yeah.
So we'll get that brought up. But so again, like some people would have thought, well, you can't run, but you obviously didn't think that.
Yeah. Also, running was a big thing to get me stronger for ski racing.
Okay.
So running, mountain biking, I enjoy doing them, but also I got brought into them because of ski racing, because they're just one thing I have to do to get stronger and to be active.
Okay. And is it painful for you to run?
No.
No.
Being born with a disability, and then just growing up, like I started running with a disability, so I've never known anything different.
Okay. Right, so that makes a difference too. Okay, but do you have moments where you do sort of feel down and you're frustrated and you dream of having like 2 full able-bodied legs?
Of course,
that happens.
Yes.
So what's the trick? How do you pull out of that?
I think just getting through it sometimes and realizing that again you're not alone, and you just can't think about the negative things. You have to try and always think about the positive things. And you have to realize that with the negative things also come positive things, because it's always a balance.
Right. So you take something that might appear negative and turn it around and see the positive in it. Okay. So let's say I could turn back the clock and you get to start over. Would you choose to start over with 2 able-bodied legs? 2 abled legs. Like, what would you wish for if I could turn back the clock?
I don't think I would do that, because then I wouldn't be here where I am today and be able to compete in the 2015 Canada Winter Games and other races and meet those athletes like me. And I don't think that I would be the same person. Like, just being a disabled athlete has taught me and like turned me into a whole different person.
Right. Well, would you agree, Jackson? I mean, like, would that be challenging to turn back the clock and have an opportunity to be fully able-bodied? What would...
It'd be nice, but you know what? Little hardship makes life worth living. Like, you kind of need it. You grow from it. You learn a lot from it. I think I'm probably a better person because
Right.
of all I've had to go through, and it's made me grow more as a person.
Right.
Right. So I like where I'm at right now, and I wouldn't change it.
Wow. So really, you know, accepting reality, like just loving what is huge, isn't it? Because that's what I think I hear you saying, is it's not about wishing the reality to be different. It's embracing and taking the gifts and accepting what you can receive from it. Yeah, that's great. I always say, like, you know, challenges are just gifts in disguise. So it definitely sounds like the two of you have been able to find that, have been able to find that gift, the challenge that comes with having challenges. So any last thoughts? We're just about ready to finish up and wrap up. And any last pieces of advice that you would offer, Sarah, to anyone who's struggling?
Don't make any limits for yourself, because then you'll never be open to trying new things. And don't think of what you can do or can't do. It's what you can do.
Okay, great. Well, we hope that you have got something important out of this message that these two have, and that you have something that can take you on your journey of awakening.